hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Saturday.
Reparation rally at the Capitol, 11:30 to 1.
Okay.
And we're asking all of Lansing to participate. And it's a situation where we can rally behind one common cause. The whole community needs to hear what is going on and what's going down and what should happen in regards to reparation. We got Dennis speaking. He's our historian for the Unity group, and Dr. Davis, and is going to inform us from the issues that are being gathered in Detroit as far as bringing everybody up to speed on reparations and where it is at this point. But it's very important for the African American community to come on board and participate in this rally.
Yeah.
To keep it in the forefront.
Yeah. One of the things is that we kind of and I, oh, here I go again. Malcolm. In 1963, last time he was in Lansing, he said the people in Lansing was the most backwards, non-participating people, and that was in 1963. So maybe you guys have. I haven't seen any improvement in that yet. So go ahead, Dennis.
Well, man. But despite the fact y'all ain't, please come Saturday. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
The apathy is endemic, but it's just not here in Lansing. Most people, I don't care what race you are, seem to be more impressed by creature comfort and security than by rights and righteousness. But we'll see. This is something that we all need to participate in, talk about, be concerned about, be demanding, and I guess we'll find out Saturday just how great the interest is. But please do attend if you can have time.
Paget, now in 1968, when Dr. King was murdered, he was in Memphis, Tennessee, and they were talking about the demand for jobs, equality, and all that. That was 1968. Here in 2019, we're still where we was then, jobs, because we see so many our black people without any jobs, anything. So how do we? What do we say about that, and how do we figure this out?
I think we will always have a need for jobs. People will always need jobs. The big issue is those who are in a position to create the jobs. They pick and choose who they want, which means it comes down now to the rest of us who want the jobs to make sure we are adequately prepared to to take on these jobs. We're moving away from the agriculture and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is becoming more sophisticated,
Mm-hmm.
robotic,
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, that artificial intelligence is displacing a lot of people.
Okay.
So people have to be cross-trained now. They have to train for something else. And if we stop and think, no matter how many robots and things they get, they will still have need for people. And we have to now get to the point of seeing what do they need. You know, we can't wait on them. Don't wait on the government. I mean, you hear Trump talking that he has brought the unemployment among blacks to the lowest ever and all of that. That is hogwash. You
Mhm.
still got a whole host of people unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry about the numbers came down. Let's concentrate on those who still need jobs and come up with programs. Don't you forget, when he got in office, before he came in, everything was he was going to bring all these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to bring back all these factories. And the jobs he is trying to push is back in the coal industry. We're about that now. These folks need to be trained to do something else. Not against them. This is what they did. It worked. But now we're moving on to something better,
Mm-hmm.
something cleaner,
Mm-hmm.
and we just have to help everybody to move along with the rate of our
Yeah.
development.
And I like where you're going with that, because I think our children in our community, African American community, need to be pushed or geared towards mathematics and sciences,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the trend in society that you're speaking of, as far as with artificial intelligence, to be able to compete out there in the market for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's something that we as a community should focus on. And I think going back to reparations, those are some of the things that we can do with the expenditure that's allocated from reparations,
Mm-hmm.
to come up with programs that would stimulate people of color
Mm-hmm.
to be more competitive in the world market.
Yeah, yeah, and this is not, but I was reading this thing. It said in South Africa, 90% of the land is owned by whites there, and they said it's the worst. It's the worst of all of the places. Of all the places it is, they said it was the worst. South Africa was the worst place in the world for races, because the whites own all the land.
The Dutch,
Hmm?
Dutch and Portuguese.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you own all the land, you do what you want to, you know.
Well, that's one reason why Mandela was criticized. You know, he's feted and revered worldwide, and people are reticent to criticize him. But he was criticized, including by his ex-wife, Winnie, because when he became the leader of South Africa, they had this truth and reconciliation effort,
Mm-hmm.
and they had these police officers, judges, officials
Mm-hmm.
who were murderers, thieves, just incessant abusers of black people.
Mm-hmm.
And they came up there in front of this committee, and they confessed their sins and their crimes,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked for forgiveness, and everybody did kumbaya, and they cried.
Mm-hmm.
But then they went home and their bank account hadn't changed.
Right.
They went home and they still had all the access to capital. They
Mhm.
went home, they still had all the bank accounts.
Mhm.
They still had all the land.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, particularly those who were in the Steve Biko arm
Mm-hmm.
of the movement, I forget the name of it now, were dissatisfied with it. And you can see to this day it resonates. The power is still in the hands of the descendant of the Dutch, the Boers, and the black people are still impoverished. You saw a little bit of a different model in what used to be called Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe, and there you saw leadership say, "We're taking the land back, we're taking the farms away, we're giving those back to the Africans," and the leadership there was criticized and reviled all the way around the world. In fact, the long-term president Mugabe, who just died last week, as a matter of fact, was often called a black Hitler, and his response was, "I'm a Hitler for giving back the people what was stolen from them." So you had kind of two different models there. Neither one has been successful, because if you have a world economy that's predicated on white supremacy, they won't allow any competition. You saw it in Haiti after the revolution there in 1804. The Africans in Haiti were punished for having the temerity to successfully rebel against their enslavers, and they were hit with demands for reparations, which they had to pay back to the French for having the nerve to become free, and that bill wasn't paid until the early 1920s after World War I. On the other side, you have a demand for reparations from the descendants of the enslaved Africans here in the United States and really all over the Western Hemisphere, that is being met with resistance, but more and more the moral resistance is being knocked down. Now it's just coming down to dollars and cents, and the response from most of the people who would have to pay these reparations is just to ignore the issue. And they're banking on, and maybe reliably so, Africans here in America to be as servile and disinterested and more interested in the game and the soap operas than they are about the facts of their existence. And as long as they remain that apathetic, it's going to be difficult to talk about this issue, this issue of reparations in serious terms. We've got to stand as a strong, unified community to make this happen. And right now, people are just too apathetic. And you know, one last thing I'll say, you know, Padgett was talking about the jobs. The type of jobs that we're talking about here in the United States, many of them aren't enough to make a family secure. They don't pay a living wage. People are working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep the lights on, keep the car paid and fueled. Children are home unsupervised. President Obama reduced the black unemployment rate by 10%. In many of 10 full points, that's dramatic. And many of those jobs were good paying jobs. They were the kind of jobs that you see in manufacturing and good retail jobs and good IT jobs. Trump has been able to reduce about another 2%, not by any particular program that he's implemented, just by him living in the White House after Obama left and enjoying the benefit of the economy he created, the momentum from there. So anything that we do subsequent to this is going to have to be predicated on some type of new idea that can put more people to work in good jobs that pay a living wage, that are safe and clean. And I think that's where the candidates who are talking about the new technology, the green economy, the renewable energy, are the ones who are going to win the day in terms of turning this economy around and making us less vulnerable to climate change.
That's one of the reasons, you know, when I mentioned 1968 and today, we still out here about jobs, you know. I mean, it's all those years and still the same thing. You know, I mean, what do you think it might be, along with racism and all them other things?
Well, going back to what Dennis was talking about earlier, you know, as far as what the Jewish thing and the Holocaust and the Hitler thing, everybody is forgetting that what America did to African Americans for over 300 years, and then the light bulb comes on in Hitler's head. And he tries to attempt to do the same thing with the Jewish community. And the Jewish community already getting their reparations. And they control communications, and they just sports and things of this nature. They got a foothold, and they got that from investing into the community. They run America as far as communications and distribution and things of that nature. And for them to give us a foothold, or to render us a situation where we can apply and develop our community as they did in their community, because of the damage, the irreparable damage that was done to us, and going untherapeutically dealt with in our community. I think we as a community need to understand what our ancestors had to endure, and don't be ashamed of the responsibility that is put upon you as a people to go out and, by any means necessary, get yourself out of the condition that has been put on you, and stop being comfortable with the conditions that we have been subjected to, and try to elevate our standards and our families and our communities, and take control and get these thieves and robbers out of our community, and deal with the issues that lie and the issues that are holding us back as a people, as far as being responsible and having a purpose in our community, and for the future generation of people that was affected by slavery and chattel slavery. No one knows what it's like, what we went through.
Right.
And we're not to be played with. We are before we came over here, we were kings, queens. We had a system in place, and they took that, they robbed that from us. And our nature is calling out to get that return back, so we can be connected as a people, because we're suffering from the brutality that was done to us as a people, and we need some type of stimulus to give us a predication so that we can move forward collectively as a people into the future and compete on a world level. And so reparations is something that we can't do it without that, but we have to organize as a people to become a people and a voice.
So what do you think are some of the things that'll get us where we're supposed to be?
Pay the money that's owed. It's not real complicated. The value of enslaved Africans in the United States, in the South, made the South the wealthiest area of the United States at the time leading up to the Civil War. There were more millionaires in the Mississippi Delta than were in New York, Boston, Philadelphia. The wealth was in what Africans represented in terms of what their bodies were valued as, and what they could do, and what they produced: the cotton, the tobacco, the sugar, everything that went to the textile mills, everything that was backed up by the insurance companies, everything that went into all the raw material that was produced, that went into the finished goods that was exported. So the North had a interest in the economic engine that was produced by enslavement of Africans. They were secondarily and tertiarily involved, but they were involved in the slave trade. So imagine going to work in an industry, let's say IT, that's a lucrative industry, and and your performance and people like you performed duties and jobs and created things that was the linchpin to that IT sector becoming successful and wealthy. Imagine doing that for 40 years of your life, retiring at the age of 67, and never once collecting a check. never once having anything thrown into a pension, never once having a 401k, never once having anything that would be considered health care. Yeah, there was some acute care. If you broke your leg, then slavers would set your bones. If you had pneumonia, they would rub some type of ointment on you, or at least let one of the enslaved Africans do it. But the point is, you had generation upon generation upon generation upon generation not being paid for the wealth they created. And then you had their children and grandchildren subjugated in Jim Crow and in mass incarceration. Programs that exist to this very day that have been designed to prevent you from getting what you're owed. So some of the things Chuck talked about in terms of developing community and unity and all that thing, those are all nice. But just give black folks what they're owed and get out of the way. Because then you'll see some things that you haven't seen before. You'll see some creativity that will astound you, and you will see community cohesiveness, because then you have the ability to move about. You have the ability to think and have leisure time and contemplate the facts of your existence. If you live in hand to mouth, if you're living in a way that you're impoverished all the time, it's very hard to start talking about priorities that have less to do with putting food in your children's stomach and a roof over their head, and more to do with some type of unity that could exist among all people. That may not be your priority when you're just trying to get by. So again, I say reparations first and foremost. I don't want to hear anything about a committee. I don't want to hear anything about stepwise contributions till you're ready for it. You know, you have to qualify for this. No, pay the money and then get out of the way.
Yeah. Well, you know, I keep hopping back to what Malcolm said. You know, Malcolm said that back in the '60s. You know, open the door and then get back.
Yeah, that's really all that's needed.
Yeah. We'll do what we need to do. You know. You were saying, Patrick.
Well, you know, I still think the whole idea of reparation is going to be prolonged. It's a good idea.
So what was that? Phone going off, telling us we're going to be blowing up at some time?
The whole idea that we deserve something, as long as it is only with us, and by that I mean the minorities, the blacks, who suffer, as long as the idea is only with us, I don't think anything coming in a hurry. You have to get the other side to see and take responsibility for their actions, and now determine that they will do the right thing and give back to the minorities what they deserve. If it's totally on our end, maybe another 100 years.
Well,
you say only minority. What are you saying?
No, if it's just the minority thinking about it and talking about it, it's not going to happen. The people who control the wealth, the people who subjugated the blacks, enslaved them, used them, dehumanized them, until they come to the point of acknowledging their role and now their responsibility, we're not going to get anything.
Well, how do you get them there?
Well, I think if we plug into the purpose of rallying behind, like everybody back in the '60s was on the same page, and things were being done, and leaders were being produced, and everybody was on the same page. if we can rally behind something like that, I think from a spiritual perspective, things, if you are on the right universal vibration, those things will come to fruition, and the plan and everything that you need. But the purpose is get your reparations and stand up and demand it.
Mm-hmm.
You get the political effort. You'll get the brains, you know, that it takes to stimulate other people to justify
Mm-hmm.
giving it to us
Mm-hmm.
and getting out of our way and making a way so that we can, as a people, make plans for the future generations, not just for, you know, right now. This is money that's going to be a long term. We're talking about a lot of money that's due us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like,
It starts with us,
Mm-hmm.
the victims, really coming together,
Mm-hmm.
seeking, not begging, we're claiming that which is ours by
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And until we do something to force the other party to come to the table meaningfully,
You
Yeah.
know,
generation after generation
right,
until it's happened.
you
then
know,
something will break.
you know, in we don't have much time, but do you know we're going to be mentioning Miss Kelly House. We'll be mentioning her name probably for the next 5 or 10 years, because in 1888, here's a woman born 4 years before slavery ended. In 1888, she began to speak then about reparation. She
Yeah.
died in 1928.
Mention that little ditty about Scotland.
Oh yeah. We've talked about it. Scottish University.
In Glasgow, they've decided to pay $24.4 million in reparations as recognition that they benefited. They weren't enslavers, but they benefited from enslavement. And that's what I mean. There's a moral argument to be made, but there's no one in the world who's going to stand up for black people but black people. No one.
Right.
That's
right.
the history of it.
Right.
There's no group on the planet that will align themselves with us. I mean, you can look down through the history. The Japanese were rightfully paid reparations after they were removed from their lands and put into camps during World War II. You saw West Germany pay reparations to the enslaved, to the Jews who were put in concentration camps and death camps. Their survivors and children. You see, there's a long history of this, except for African people, and that's where the moral argument needs to be made.
And the thing about it, what I get so upset about, 256 years of slavery. I mean, no, nothing but slavery. We ran out of time, but we got to get back on this one next week.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.